Hey, puring your irons dead center in the middle of the club face. Seems so easy for the pros on TV, but for us regular mortals, can be very, very elusive how to groove a center club face consistent contact. So right after this, I want to give you a few tips and clues on how you can fix your impact. Stay tuned. Hey, this is Steve with HitItLonger.com. I hope you get enough value out of this video that you'll like. Hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, and share it with somebody who you like to also see pure their irons better too. All right, let's start with probably the most prominent, the most common that I see when teaching lessons, and that is the persistent heel strike. So a heel strike on the inside, or even the SH word that we won't say on this video, but definitely trending towards that inside of the club, this can really rob you of a lot of distance, especially with the driver. And oftentimes, there's nothing conventional about hitting a little ball with a stick. So we can't use what my dad would say is conventional wisdom. You know, my dad's philosophy would be if he was hitting the ball in the heel, it means he just needs to move back an inch, right? You move back an inch and everything is fine. Just like shooting free throws, you keep hitting the back of the rim, you back up a little bit, right? That's simple, right? Fortunately, it doesn't work that way. That's not the cause. Standing too close or too far is almost never the cause of hitting heel or toe. So let's look at a more common cause. This explains most of the healing that my students do. Or even worse. Now, when they start off and they swing back like this, if your pelvis is moving forward or you're standing up this way, see, that's going to have a cascading effect on what your arms and hands have to do with the club now in order to miss your body and hit the ball at the same time. So instead of this club coming neatly back to here under my shoulders. Now watch, if I'm here instead, I have to push my hands way out towards the ball, further out than where I started, in order to hit this thing. Now, all of a sudden, it becomes very easy to heel the ball with an open face and go off to the right. Most of my students who hit it in the heel, or worse, this is what they do. They push their pelvis forward and stand up, what we might call early extension. It makes it much more difficult to consistently hit the sweet spot. And as my dad would say, if I'm hitting it off the end of the toe, it means I'm reaching too far. I just have to move a little closer and swing. Unfortunately, this almost never solves the problem here either. But I have found that, well, hitting it a little high off the toe with your driver is actually a great way to get a little extra distance. So you're not going to be a short hitter if you're patterned, and your swing is probably healthier. If you're hitting it a little towards the toe and a little up on the face all the time, you're probably in better shape than the heelers. Now, what I have found is that those golfers are simply not making a good pivot out in front of impact in sequence. So someone who toes the ball, and that would go with an accompanying, usually a hook of some kind, starting a little right and then hooking left. It's happening when their body is just a little too still for too long, and they're not getting this out in front pivot sequence out in front of the strike of the ball. So that would be a great way for you to try to fix some toe hits. If you're having the toe hits, is try to get your pivot and your rotation of your chest just a little bit more out in front. They might just be a little dead or a little bit late. All right, let's move to one more, and that is hitting the ball low on the face or thin. Now, of course, my dad would say, well, you just have to swing the club lower to the ground. Okay, Well, you'd think that makes sense, but again, there's nothing that makes sense about hitting a little ball with a little stick of metal. It makes no sense at all, does it? So let's look at the more likely reason that you're hitting the ball thin a lot, and that is that you're not controlling your low point very well. Most people who hit the ball a little bit thin bottom out either right under the ball or a little behind the ball, an inch. Even a good player, you might be bottoming out just 1 inch behind it. And of course, what are you trying to avoid? You're trying to avoid the chunk. So most better players, they'll figure out, rather than fixing the problem, good players usually, through trial and error, they figure out a compensation, and they'll figure out how to make it work as best as they can. But you're gonna always be catching the ball a little on the way up. Now, look at this. If we really made this obvious, let's bottom out 4 or 5 inches behind it. Now watch this. The club is gonna ascend and actually hit the top of the ball. So now imagine just a more minor version of this. You might catch it one groove a lot, but this is a great alternative than chunking the ball and having it only go halfway to the hole. Of course, there's an exception to this, and that's when you got your sand wedge from 75 yards and you hit it a groove or two low and you just rifle it over the green into the bushes for a double bogey. So it can be very penal, almost as penal sometimes as the chunks, but you want to fix the thins. And these people, generally, these golfers rarely ever take a divot. They're sweepers. If you're a sweeper and you hit it thin, this will be the fix. You want to make sure that you get your low point further in front of the ball. I've got a 6-iron here. I want my low point to be about 3 inches in front of the ball. That way I'm hitting down, and the ground is now my friend because it's in front and the ball's already popped off the club face. So I'm going to be hitting just barely down, maybe 2 to 4 degrees on this 6-iron. Ball's gone, and then I enter the turf just after and bottom out about 3 inches in front. This way I don't fear hitting it fat, and I can go down into the turf more deeply, thereby avoiding all the hits low on the club face. Keep in mind, when it comes to fixing these, of course, I would love to see at all times, I'd love to see you have a bottle of foot powder spray that you can spray on your club face about every 5 or 10 hits and identify, number one, is there any pattern to your mishits? Some golfers have no pattern. It's just willy-nilly randomness. They miss all over the place. Now, to address that, you've got to hit a lot more golf balls and probably get your swing overall a lot better. But the better golfers who have a pattern, always healing, always healing, always healing, always towing, always hitting it thin. Maybe start with these ideas I've given you in your bid to improve your striking. Hit it in the center more often. Let's see if I can use my own advice. Oh, that's beautifully in the center of the club face. And hitting the center is definitely makes the ball go straighter than if you miss it in either heel or toe. So hey, thanks for watching. I hope these ideas help. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions. Head over to my website, hititlonger.com, for more. And if I don't see you in the next video, I hope I see you longer and straighter down the fairway. Everybody take good care.